Hi, it's me. I'm coming to you from Yeungnam. Though I don't know how many of these classes I will actually take at Yeungnam. But anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed their first class last week and that I was able to answer any questions you might have had. But one of the things I told you was that for the TED Talks and for the reading, it will be videos like this. I did mention that last time when we had our Zoom class. That's it. So we're going to begin with this. I just want to say ahead of time that she's one of the only speakers that speaks really, really fast. But as I mentioned, all of the scripts are in the back of the book, and they're even divided into parts. Because for this book, you will be watching part of a video and answering questions, watching another part, and so on. And if you don't know what they're saying, and also because this is a video, you can always look in the back of the book. Also, if any of these talks, if you want to know more, or if you want to see other TED Talks, just go to TED.com. You do not have to log in to watch any of the TED Talks, and most TED Talks will have Korean subtitles, so it will be easier for you to understand what they're saying. Also, all of these TED Talks in the books are at TED.com. I showed you the class folder, and one of the documents is a link to all the TED Talks from the book, and they all have Korean subtitles. So if you actually wanted to see the full TED Talk of any of these talks, just follow the link in the class folder. But let's begin with our first one. Her name is Margaret Gould Stewart, as you can see from the PowerPoint here. This is one of her quotes from her TED Talk. And if you have your books open, which you should, Unit 1, Designing the Web, the page should look it should look like this. Right, and she says something, I believe, consider the fact that Google processes over 1 billion, that's 9 zeros, 1 billion search queries every day. That every minute, over 100 hours of footage is uploaded to YouTube. You know, these are like numbers that we don't really think about, but it is a lot. All right, right now I'm in the classroom, and I'm kind of tethered to the mouse here. So let's begin. All right, so in this unit, we will talk about digital products and how they are designed. Read about designing websites for millions. That's what she does. She doesn't do sites. I think she does more logos and such, but you will find out in the TED Talk, or part of it. And we'll watch TED Talk about designing for all kinds or all types of users. Alright, so now the first part here is we're going to watch part of, meaning just a small little piece, just to make sure you understand. And alright, let me move this here. I mentioned this in the first Zoom class, but yeah, all the transcripts start on page 104. They are divided into parts. Okay, so think about these questions. Number one is more of a question I would like to ask you guys in our Zoom class. What examples of classic design can you think of? So everybody's going to have their own thing. There's no one right answer here. Everybody will have their own. And what do you think Stuart means by designs that live inside your pocket? Now this is one that the answer is pretty clear. Even without watching this little video here, you should be able to understand what she means by the designs that live inside your pocket. Pockets, pants, such. Right. Oops. Sorry about that. The PowerPoint is not working. All right. So now it's working. All right. Like I said, this is just a taste of her talk. I'm going to, I think, I'm now going to make my window smaller, as small as I can, so that you can watch this.
What do you think of when I say the word design? You probably think of things like this, finely crafted objects that you can hold in your hand, or maybe logos and posters and maps that visually explain things, classic icons of timeless design. But I'm not here to talk about that kind of design. I want to talk about the kind that you probably use every day and may not give much thought to. Designs that change all the time and that live inside your pocket.
All right, like I said, this is just a small little taste, and you can see she does speak quickly. All right, so as far as question number one, everybody will have a different answer as to what they think classic means. So answers will vary, and I will try to come back to this in our Zoom class. But take a minute, think about question two. I think even though it's supposed to be what do you think, I'm pretty sure everybody will come up with pretty much the same answer. Designs that live inside your pocket. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go get an example of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait about a minute, and then I will go over the answer, but everybody should pretty much have the same answer. So I'm going to step away, and I'll come back in 1 minute. Okay, so it should be about 20 seconds left. Let me look at the clock. Yep, about 20 seconds. But I'm pretty sure everybody already has pretty much the same answer for designs that live inside your pocket. All right, so yeah, we're pretty much at a minute now. All right. I think we all know what she means. For a very perfect example would be this. It lives inside your pocket. So designs for logos and such on your phone. Right, so if you wanted to open Neighbor, you have the little logo. So, I'm going to read the answer that they have here. She is talking about the design of digital experiences that we come across when we use devices like smartphones. Okay. Look this up. I mean, your answer does not have to be exactly this, but if you wanted to copy, I guess for things like this, once I show you, the best thing to do would be if you wanted to copy what's here, just pause the video and copy. But an answer like this, because it's what do you think, everybody should have something to do with phones, smartphones, cell phones, tablets, smaller ones that actually would fit. All right, let me see here. I'll give you guys about 2 minutes here to read this. All right, so how giant websites designed for you and a billion others too. So this is a little thing about her. Actually, what I'll do is I will read it and you can read along and look at the words in bold. And on the bottom are the meanings of those words in bold, but they're not in the same order as what is written. So you have to match each bold word with the meaning. All right, I'll try to read slowly. All right, Margaret Gould Stewart has spent her career asking the question, how do we design user experiences that change the world? She has managed user experiences for some of the most visited websites in the world, including YouTube and Facebook. The wide reach of these websites means that Stewart has had to deal with unprecedented challenges and constraints. So I'll be doing that for the words that you need to know. All right, Margaret Gould Stewart's idea worth spreading is that designing at a global scale requires both the audacity to believe your product is needed by the whole world and the humility to understand that your audience is far more important than you as a designer. All right, so take a minute. You should have been looking at those words and writing them in, but yeah, it's your book. You can write the words, or you can write number 1, number 2, number 3, meaning this would be number 1, this would, meaning this is the first word, second word, third word. It's up to you. It's your book. So if you wanted to if you think the meaning for unprecedented is number 1, then you can write the word or just a number. It's your book. It's your choice. All right. About a minute, and then I'll show you the meanings. Just checking the clock. So you should have about 20 seconds. Something I forgot to mention, and I'll only mention it now, for these videos. Any questions that you may have about the answers, you're not sure, or you think, why isn't this right, or anything that we're doing in the video, you can always ask me during the Zoom class. All right, so let's go over this. So the quality of not being proud, humility. All right, confidence or courage to take risks, audacity, the size or the level of something, the scale, things that limit what you can do, constraints, not done before or has not happened in the past. So the first time, ever. Unprecedented. All right, so as I said, for the first thing that we did, pause the video and write down the answers if you have the wrong ones. All right, I'm going to move on in 3, 2, 1. All right, now we're going to watch part 1. Again, you can always go to the back of the book and read along, page 104. But check, let me give you a hint. The sentences about design challenges that Margaret Stewart mentions, and I'm going to give you a hint. The number 3, meaning there are 3. There are 3 of these. All right, let's watch the video and think about this, or check them as you hear them. All right, let's begin.
When I say the word design. You probably think of things like this, finely crafted objects that you can hold in your hand, or maybe logos and posters and maps that visually explain things, classic icons of timeless design. But I'm not here to talk about that kind of design. I want to talk about the kind that you probably use every day and may not give much thought to. Designs that change all the time and that live inside your pocket. I'm talking about the design of digital experiences, and specifically, the design of systems that are so big that their scale can be hard to comprehend. Consider the fact that Google processes over 1 billion search queries every day, that every minute over 100 hours of footage are uploaded to YouTube. That's more in a single day than all 3 major U.S. networks broadcast in the last 5 years combined. And Facebook transmitting the photos, messages, and stories of over 1.23 billion people. That's almost half of the internet population and a sixth of humanity. These are some of the products that I've helped design over the course of my career, and their scale is so massive that they've produced unprecedented design challenges. But what is really hard about designing at scale is this. It's hard in part because it requires a combination of 2 things, audacity and humility. Audacity to believe that the thing that you're making is something that the entire world wants and needs. And humility to understand that as a designer, it's not about you or your portfolio. It's about the people that you're designing for and how your work just might help them live better lives. Now, unfortunately, there's no school that offers the course Designing for Humanity 101. I and the other designers who work on these kinds of products have had to kind of invent it as we go along, and we're teaching ourselves the emerging best practices of designing at scale. And today I'd like to share some of the things that we've learned over the years.
So, this should be relatively easy, but as the quick questions get a little bit harder for you to do, even though I say, I'll give you a minute, I'll give you two, however long, you can always pause. Remember, this is just a video. You're not in the class, so you have as much time as you need. Just pause the video and try to answer. But something like this should be relatively easy. For this, I'm just going to wait about 30 seconds, and then we will go over the answers, the three that you checked. It's about 30 seconds. Again, this should be easy, but if you need more time, if you're still looking at the script and all that, just pause the video and... All right, so, number one, the first one that she talks about. Designers need to believe that their products are something the world wants. Designers must understand that their work may have an important impact on people's lives. And there are no fixed ways of doing things or guaranteed success when designing at scale, when you have to design for large or many. All right, so the second checkbox was not used. Again, you can always pause here, but I'm going to move on in 3, 2, 1. All right, now we're going to watch the second part. All right, so she talks about designing the Facebook like button, which we all know, the little thumbs up. All right, so which of the following, there's only one, describes the lesson learned from making that little like button that we all know and love. All right, so let's listen to her second part here. Remember, there's only one.
To know about designing at scale is that the little things really matter. Here's a really good example of how a very tiny design element can make a big impact. Now, the team at Facebook that manages the Facebook like button decided that it needed to be redesigned. The button had kind of gotten out of sync with the evolution of our brand, and it needed to be modernized. Now, you might think, well, it's a tiny little button. It probably is a pretty straightforward, easy design assignment. But it wasn't. Turns out there were all kinds of constraints for the design of this button. You had to work within specific height and width parameters. You had to be careful to make it work in a bunch of different languages, and be careful about using fancy gradients or borders because it has to degrade gracefully in old web browsers. The truth is, designing this tiny little button is a huge pain in the butt. Now, this is the new version of the button, and the designer who led this project estimates that he spent over 280 hours redesigning this button over the course of months. Now, why would we spend so much time on something so small? It's because when you're designing at scale, there's no such thing as a small detail. This innocent little button is seen on average 22 billion times a day, and on over 7.5 million websites. It's one of the single most viewed design elements ever created. Now, that's a lot of pressure for a little button and the designer behind it. But with these kinds of products, you need to get even the tiny things right.
If you want to see more, Just go to the site. All right. So, which of the following describes the lesson learned from designing the tiny little like button? I just give you about 30 seconds here, and then we'll go over the answer. Just every time I look over there, it's because I'm looking at the clock. This should be relatively easy. Let me read all three for you. When you are designing on a huge scale, every detail, no matter how small it seems, is important. B, it is necessary to spend a lot of time and effort redesigning elements many times in order to make sure that the overall design fits the brand image. C, the smallest design details are the most important when designing on a huge scale, and you need to get the best designers to work on them. Okay, so she does mention these things, all three of them, but which one is the best one? Which is the main point here? And the main point is A. Okay. I don't think you need to pause, but if you want to, go ahead. But we're going to move on. All right, now we're going to watch part 3. And I'm trying to remember how many there are. There's more than one here. People who design at scale blank, and then there should be more than one. I'm trying to remember if there are 2 or 3, but we will get to that in just a minute. But right now, let's watch part 3.
Set a goal to design for the entire human race, and you start to engage in that goal in earnest, at some point you run into the walls of the bubble that you're living in. Now, in San Francisco, we get a little miffed when we hit a dead cell zone because we can't use our phones to navigate to the new hipster coffee shop. But what if you had to drive 4 hours to charge your phone because you had no reliable source of electricity? What if you had no access to public libraries? What if your country had no free press? What would these products start to mean to you? This is what Google, YouTube, and Facebook look like to most of the world, and it's what they'll look like to most of the next 5 billion people to come online. Designing for low-end cell phones is not glamorous design work, but if you want to design for the whole world, you have to design for where people are, and not where you are. So how do you keep this big picture in mind? We try to travel outside of our bubble to see, hear, and understand the people we're designing for. We use our products in non-English languages to make sure that they work just as well. And we try to use one of these phones from time to time to keep in touch with their reality. So what does it mean to design at a global scale? It means difficult and sometimes exasperating work to try to improve and evolve products. Finding the audacity and the humility to do right by them can be pretty exhausting. And the humility part, it's a little tough on the design ego. Because these products are always changing, everything that I've designed in my career is pretty much gone. And everything that I will design will fade away. But here's what remains. The never-ending thrill of being a part of something that is so big you can hardly get your head around it. And the promise that it just might change the world. Thank you.
All right. So, part 3, check the information that Margaret Gould Stewart is likely to agree with. All right, 30 seconds. If you need more time, just pause the video. Again, remember the transcript starts on page 104, and this is part 3. You have about 5 seconds left, but again, just pause if you need to. Okay, people who design at scale need to design for low-end cell phones. Should try using their products in different languages. Need to try out their products on both old and new phones. Should find ways to cut costs? No. All right. This probably is going to end up being the last thing we do. I'm supposed to be doing 30 minutes, but I believe I'm longer than that. So this should be relatively easy. You're going to listen to a conversation. It's a man and a woman. What are they going to do? What are they going to do finally? What are they finally going to do? You don't have to talk to your partner. You just have to listen. And there's the answer. Okay.
We need to choose a restaurant for Leona's birthday party.
Oh yes, it's next Friday, isn't it? Where should we go? Any recommendations?
How about that new Italian restaurant on Brook Road? Have you been there yet?
No, but we can check the reviews online. Here we go. Good. Here, take a look. 9 out of 10.
Wow, all good reviews. But only 5 people have reviewed it so far. I wonder how accurate this information is.
Well, this website usually has pretty reliable reviews.
Maybe, but I still think it's better to go there ourselves and check it out. A few times I've been to restaurants that had good reviews, but they turned out to be disappointing.
I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. But okay, let's go check it out.
All right, so what are they going to do? They're going to go and actually look at it, just in case. All right, so actually, I want you guys to look at the D, and we're going to do this in probably one more slide, because we're going to get into comparatives and superlatives. So, take a look at this. What I'm going to do now is I'm not going to give you any time. I'm going to ask you to please pause the video when you hear me say pause now. Pause the video, do the work, unpause, look at the answers. I trust that you will do it. But here we go. Okay, so for number 1 and number 2, please pause your video now. Okay, welcome back. You should have unpaused now. Number 1, the woman is, oops.
We need to choose a restaurant for Leona's birthday party.
Oh yes.
The woman is more confident than the man about the reliability of online reviews. This is a comparative. When you have than, this is better than that, that would be comparing, or, comparative. The man thinks that checking out the restaurant in person is better than reading online reviews. Again, comparing. He's comparing. Take a look again, like I said about the pausing. Complete the sentences to make comparisons. Add suitable comparison words as necessary. Alright, so for numbers 1 to 5, we will do number 1 together. Sometimes cheaper products may be just as reliable as more expensive products. The price may not mean a difference in quality. Alright, for numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, pause now. Okay, welcome back. Number 2. One of the most important things in website design is making it easy for users to find information. All right, most important, that is superlative, the best, the only one, superlative. Okay, online prices are usually not as expensive as store prices. All right, I bought a shirt online, but when it arrived, it was different from how it looked in the pictures. And some people think shopping at an actual store is better than buying things online because they can touch and try them. Okay, so everything here is a form of comparison except number 2. Number 2 is superlative. Alright, and I guess what I want to do is try to end here. I said there would be 2 more slides. This is the second slide. So we have easier than, more efficient than, the best, just as expensive as, very different from, the same as. I'll play the audio. Right.
Comparing products and services.
I think using a navigation app is easier than looking at a printed map.
I think it's much more efficient to work on a desktop than on a tablet computer.
Many consumers search online for the best product available before buying.
Some smartphones are just as expensive as laptops these days.
These days, people use their phones in very different ways from just 10 years ago.
Smartphones today have pretty much the same functions as computers.
Alright, so which sentence is superlative? And well, I did say super, right? The most, the best, the best. That would be a superlative sentence. Alright, so I guess what I want you guys to do is take a look at this for our next class, and we will actually start on this page for the Zoom class, because I know I went over the 30-minute limit, so we will start on page 15F for our Zoom class. All right, see you then.